Committee will come to order. Welcome to the fiscal year 2022 Financial Services and General Government Markup. I am joined by our good friend, Congressman Steve Womack, the ranking member, who is here in person today. I also want to welcome the full committee chair, Ms. DeLauro, ranking member Granger, and all the subcommittee members who are here in person and those participating by secure video teleconference. Before we begin opening statements, I'd like to offer a brief explanation of how this will work. Today's room has been configured to maintain the recommended 6-foot social distancing between member staff and the press corps. As mentioned, some members have opted to use secure video teleconferencing, which allows them to participate remotely. For those on video conference, once you start speaking, there will be a slight delay before you are displayed on the main screen. Speaking into the microphone activates the camera displaying the speaker on the main screen. Do not stop your remarks if you do not immediately see the screen switch. If the screen does not change after several seconds, please make sure you are not muted. To minimize background noise and ensure the correct speaker is being displayed, we ask that members who are participating by video remain on mute unless you have sought recognition. In terms of speaking order, we will follow the traditional order, beginning with the chair and ranking member, then the chair and ranking member of the full committee, and then any other members who wish to speak. Finally, we have set up an email address to which members can send anything they wish to submit in writing at any of our hearings or markups, including documents to be inserted in the record by unanimous consent, amendments, motions, and other unanimous consent requests, and so on. That email address has been provided to your staff. I remind all members that they must verbally request unanimous consent out loud, separately from sending the document or written UC request to the email address. Now, let's begin with opening statements. Today, the subcommittee will mark up the fiscal year 2022 bill. In a moment, I'll talk about the mark itself, but I would first like to thank my colleague, Mr. Womack, for his hard work and collaboration. We may not agree on everything, but I appreciate his partnership in developing the best possible bill during this challenging time. I'd also like to thank the chair of the full committee for her tremendous leadership and stewardship of this committee, as well as the committee's distinguished ranking member, Ms. Granger. The agencies and programs under the jurisdiction of the Financial Services and General Government Subcommittee are uniquely varied. Each one plays an important role in the functioning of our government, whether in terms of core services or in relation to government responsiveness, transparency, and efficiency. The subcommittee was able to hold a full hearing schedule this year, though due to the pandemic, these hearings were virtual. In these hearings, we were able to explore issues facing agencies funded in this bill so that we were able to have an informed conversation about their appropriations. The subcommittee mark recommends $29 billion. This is an increase of $4.8 billion above a comparable fiscal year 2021 level. The bill includes $13.6 billion for the IRS, an increase of $1.7 billion above fiscal year 2021, and a bold first step toward restoring the significant cuts this agency has suffered over almost a decade. This much-needed investment will support more effective and efficient enforcement activities that equally address taxpayers in all tax brackets. This funding will also support better customer service by reducing wait times and increasing assistance to those trying to navigate the complex tax code. Notably, the bill includes $330 million for community development financial institutions, which is $60 million above fiscal year 2021 level. I've long been a supporter of CDFIs, which provide critical resources to underserved communities. In addition, the bill provides $324 million for the Small Business Administration's entrepreneurial development programs, which is $52 million above fiscal year 2021 level. These grant programs provide much-needed and targeted assistance to small businesses to expand and create additional jobs. The bill also includes significant funding for the General Services Administration, including a significant investment to combat climate change. A new $300 million electric vehicles fund will both replace vehicles in the GSA fleet with electric vehicles and build electrical vehicle infrastructure. The bill also provides $100 million for GSA to manage climate change risk and safeguard federal real property, along with over $1 billion to modernize and improve the GSA real property portfolio by reducing their climate impact and improving resiliency. The bill also includes funding for programs to combat the opioid epidemic under the Office of National Drug Control Policy to ensure this crisis receives the highest level of federal attention it deserves. Specifically, $300 million is included for the high-intensity drug trafficking area program, an increase of $10 million above fiscal year 2021, and the drug-free community program is funded at $110 million. In lead up to the 250th anniversary in 2026 of our nation's founding, the bill includes much-needed funding for modernization of the National Archives building, which houses the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. These funds will be used to enhance security efforts and the visitor experience to the archives. The bill includes $8.15 billion in discretionary appropriations for the judicial branch, an increase of $432 million over fiscal year 2021, to fund protective services and physical security needs in courthouses and ensure the continued operations of the federal judiciary. The bill also increases funding for agencies that protect everyday consumers and retail investors, including the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the Federal Trade Commission, and the Security and Exchange Commission, agencies that are relatively small but absolutely essential. Finally, I'd like to take a moment to highlight an issue that has been a priority of mine: election security. States are on the front lines of protecting our elections from foreign attacks, and it is our responsibility to support these efforts. The bill before us today includes $500 million for payments to states to help them meet the challenge of ensuring the real security and integrity of American elections. This represents our continued commitment to long-term funding for election security. I urge my colleagues to join me in advancing this critical investment. The bill includes $22.8 million for the Election Assistance Commission, a 34% increase above fiscal year 2021, to support state and local election officials on all aspects of election administration and ensure reliable, secure, and accessible election. The bill takes seriously the broader cyber threat to this country. It provides $15 million to a new office of the National Cyber Director in the Executive Office of the President to help coordinate federal cybersecurity policy and strategy and make strong investments to the bill in agency cybersecurity and IT modernization. I'm proud that the bill removes several longstanding policy riders that I consider to be harmful, including many that dictate to the district how to manage its own affairs or spend its own money that harm and limit transparency in political spending. I am very pleased with the many ways in which this bill stands to improve the lives of the American public, whether by improving their tax filing experience, protecting their financial investments, promoting small business creation, and combating drug trafficking and the climate crisis. So I look forward to discussing these issues and more in the coming days. At this time, I would yield to the ranking member, Mr. Womack, for any opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is my first Financial Services markup as the ranking member, and I'd like to personally thank my friend Kay Granger for giving me this opportunity. I hope I don't disappoint her. I'd also like to thank Chairman Quigley for his friendship and approach to the subcommittee's work and for getting us to this point. Not lost on me is the fact that the last time I was in this room, it was in the fall of 2018, and the Joint Select Committee on Budget and Appropriations Process Reform was having its final vote. And it saddens me to know that on that day, we were just a few votes short of implementing some changes to the budget and appropriations process that I think would have really done America a big favor. And we're about 100 days away from the beginning of a brand new fiscal year, and yet this is the first subcommittee markup in the process. We must do better than this. I'm grateful to the chairman that he's included many priorities for Republican members and addressed several bipartisan priorities such as helping small business, combating cybercrime, and supporting anti-drug programs such as the drug-free communities and the high-intensity drug trafficking areas program that he mentioned. Unfortunately, as currently drafted, the bill's uncontrolled baseline spending is not justified and ignores our unsustainable fiscal trajectory. It also includes several controversial policy changes that I can't support. I was hoping that in fiscal 22, we could start to limit federal spending as the costs associated with the pandemic wane. Instead, this bill proposes a 20% increase in discretionary spending over fiscal 21. Numerous agencies funded in the bill received double-digit percentage increases over last year, including a 39% increase for the White House office's appropriation and a 14% increase for OMB. While I believe the IRS could use some additional resources, the bill provides them with nearly $1.7 billion, or 14% more. It wasn't too long ago that the IRS was targeting groups based on political beliefs and wasting taxpayer money on lavish conferences, inappropriate videos, and employee bonuses. While much of the federal workforce has been teleworking for more than a year, the bill provides a $1.4 billion increase to GSA, most of which is for federal buildings and vehicles. I was hoping the lessons learned during the pandemic could lead to savings in office space and travel expenses, not more spending. I will assure you that the private sector has learned its lesson. We're also seeing inflation and historically high debt ushered in by the administration's excessive spending. I'm greatly concerned these realities will hinder the recovery and burden future generations of Americans. There are also several controversial policy changes included in the bill, such as allowing D.C. tax dollars to fund abortions and removing the prohibition on federal employee health benefits funding for abortions. While I have many concerns with the bill at this stage in the process, I remain hopeful that at some point in the near future, we'll be able to reach a bipartisan and bicameral agreement on spending and eliminate controversial policy changes. I'm confident that as the process moves forward, we can continue working together to find bipartisan agreement on the items that matter most. And Mr. Chairman, with that, I thank you again for your work and for your cooperation, and I yield back my time.
Thank you, Mr. Womack. I now yield to the full committee chair, Rosa DeLauro, for her remarks.
Thank you very much, Chairman Quigley, and to you, Ranking Member Womack, and welcome to the first time as a subcommittee ranking member. And today begins a marathon, if you will, of appropriations. This is you have the distinction of being the first subcommittee markup, so we are on our way. I want to say a thank you to both the chair and the ranking member for your work, your diligence, and above all, your commitment to the work of the subcommittee, but also your commitment to this institution, most importantly, your commitment to the constituents that you represent here and reflect their views as well. The Financial Services and General Government Subcommittee covers some of the federal initiatives most important to working families, and I'm so proud of the bold steps this bill takes to rebuild from the devastation of the COVID-19 pandemic. I am pleased that we included $13.6 billion for operations of the Internal Revenue Service that will allow for the successful implementation of the expanded and improved and now monthly child tax credit. The American Rescue Plan ensured that we will cut child poverty by 55% and create a lifeline to the middle class. I've been working on this issue for over 18 years, and the committee is upholding our commitment to ensuring that the Treasury and the IRS have the resources to make this transformational benefit a success for millions of children and their families in the United States. We need to make the expansion and improvements of the child tax credit permanent. I am also proud of the increased funding for the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program that is critical to ensuring that low-income Americans file their tax returns to receive the child tax credit, the earned income tax credit, and the other credits they are owed. As we provide a lifeline to our most vulnerable and the middle class, we also must ensure that big corporations and the wealthy, who all too often call the shots, are paying their fair share in taxes. This bill begins to rebuild the IRS enforcement by providing an increase of $1.7 billion to crack down on tax cheats and offer better customer service to working families navigating the tax system. This bill also invests in our judicial system's crumbling infrastructure with money for the rebuilding and the repair of courthouses by providing an increase of $111.9 million for the Small Business Administration and an increase of $60 million for community development financial institutions. The investments in this bill will foster and support small businesses across American communities. And as we lift up small businesses, this legislation protects consumers from defective products by providing $172 million, an increase of $37 million for the Consumer Product Safety Commission. It also protects Americans from the unfair and predatory practices of big corporations through an increase of $39 million for the Federal Trade Commission. This legislation also protects our democracy with $500 million for the Election Assistant Commission's election security grants. The past 5 years have shown us how vulnerable our democracy is to foreign interference. This bill works to build the systems and infrastructure needed to safeguard the integrity and safety of our democracy. Finally, by providing $300 million for the Electric Vehicle Fund to transform the federal vehicle fleet to electric and zero-emission vehicles, the legislation plays a crucial role in addressing climate change and helping to cultivate a cleaner, healthier planet for future generations. The bill also commits resources to cybersecurity, drug-free communities, and addresses drug trafficking. The investments will make a real difference in the lives and livelihoods of the middle class and in the life of our democracy. I look forward to continuing to work with all of you as we move to the full committee consideration, and I urge your support for this important legislation. And I yield back. Thank the chairman and ranking member.
Thank you, Chair DeLauro. I now yield to the full committee ranking member, Kay Granger, for her remarks.
I want to thank Chairman Quigley for presenting the Financial Services and General Government Bill, the first appropriations bill we will consider for fiscal year 2022. I also want to thank and recognize my friend, Mr. Womack, in his first markup as ranking member. I thank him for his years of service on the Budget Committee and now his leadership on this subcommittee. It takes a lot of hard work to put a bill together, and it's even more challenging when you're the first bill in the lineup. So I want the chair and ranking member to know how much we all appreciate their sacrifice. In many cases, the bill before us reflects priorities of members on both sides of the aisle, such as support for small businesses, drug control programs, and counterterrorism and financial intelligence efforts. However, I'm concerned that there are several controversial items included related to immigration policy, union activities, and school choice for low-income students in the District of Columbia. It's also disappointing that the bill does not include longstanding pro-life provisions regarding the use of D.C. local funds and the Federal Employees Health Benefits Program. In addition to these policy concerns, the overall funding level in the bill is simply too high, with many agencies receiving double-digit percentage increases. After a year of staggering levels of spending and the pandemic now nearing an end, we should be looking for ways to address our growing national debt. Instead, this bill increases the size and reach of the federal government. I appreciate the leadership of our chair, Ms. DeLauro, to begin the fiscal year 2022 appropriations process and move bills through the committee. However, in order for our work to produce real results in the end, we need to work together to reach a bipartisan budget agreement and reject controversial policy changes. In closing, I would like to thank all of the subcommittee members and the staff for their hard work on this bill. I look forward to continuing discussions with my colleagues to improve this bill as the process moves forward. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member Granger. Are there any other members wishing to speak on the bill? Mr. Cartwright is recognized.
I'd like to thank you, Chairman Quigley, and all of the subcommittee staff for the hard work that you have all put in to the FSGG bill. In particular, I'd like to thank you for including Project Elevate, our $1 million community project funding request to promote business development in the Wyoming Valley, particularly the downtown areas. Project Elevate would help revitalize the distressed downtown areas in my district and unite the community by funding the cost of a new building that would provide a home for the Chamber of Commerce, create jobs, launch businesses, promote mentorship, and inspire entrepreneurs. It's a building that will also provide early child care services, job training, and a shared workspace for the community. It's going to make a big difference for Wilkes-Barre, and I thank you for it, Chairman Quigley. And I urge support for the passage of the FSGG bill. I yield back.
Mr. Pocan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member Womack, and all the FSG staff for all your hard work on this bill. It's a pleasure to be here for my first FSGG Subcommittee markup as a member of the subcommittee. I'd like to thank the chairman for including within this bill some funding for the Small Business Development Center, specifically for the University of Wisconsin-Madison Small Business Development Center. It's going to go towards a small business accounting and projections clinic to help startups with financial management and business planning. And as a 32-year small business owner who got help writing my first business plan from the Small Business Development Center, I can tell you their work is very helpful. I'm also pleased to see a robust investment in the Federal Trade Commission and the IRS for increased enforcement. And I just want to again thank the chairman and the ranking member, as well as our full committee chair and ranking member, for all your hard work on this bill.
Thank you. Ms. Lawrence, I believe, wishes to be recognized.
Yes.
Through the Kwame.
I want to thank you, Mr. Chair and the ranking member for the bill before us, and I specifically want to thank the hardworking staff for your dedication. It's been a pleasure to serve on the subcommittee. The bill before us is one that's very important. Small businesses have struggled over the course of this pandemic, and the funding provided would help small minority and disadvantaged businesses continue on the path to recovery. I'm especially proud of the two of my community project funding requests that will be included as part of the overall legislation. Funding for Detroit Means Business and the Centropolis Accelerator will greatly benefit the people and the businesses of the city of Detroit and Southfield to ensure that our economies stabilize, grow, and thrive for all members of our small business community. I want to thank you again, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Thank you. Ms. Torres is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a very strong bill that covers a number of important agencies and issues. And I want to thank you and your staff for your tireless work on this bill. I am proud to support it, and I am so thankful that several of my priorities were included. The bill provides $1 million in funding to Cal Poly Pomona in my district for their Bronco STEM 2M Innovation Hub, which will be used to support entrepreneurs, startups, and small businesses, critical resources as our economy continues to recover, ensuring that no one is left behind. Also, for our small businesses, the bill encourages the SBA to conduct outreach to owners whose businesses closed due to COVID to ensure they know about the resources that could help them relaunch or start a new business. And it requires that the agency provide a briefing on the status of their small businesses cybersecurity pilot program. Access to affordable housing is a major issue in my district, as in many of your districts. This report includes my language that includes transparency as to whether banks are meeting their targets in helping families connect with affordable housing. In response to the issues of post offices in disrepair in the Inland Empire, the report also requires the U.S. Postal Service Inspector General to investigate the existence repair and maintenance of post offices in low-income communities as compared to their high-income peers. As a former 911 dispatcher, I am extremely happy to see that the bill directs the Office of Management and Budget to re-examine and correct the classification of public safety telecommunicators as the protective service occupation that they truly are. And in follow-up to my hearing questions earlier this year, this legislation increases accountability in our federal judiciary to help address the years-long pattern of sexual harassment and workplace misconduct by judges. Lastly, and I meant it when I said the bill covers a number of different issues, I am grateful that language was included, supporting increased capacity in the Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control to investigate and enforce sanctions against corrupt individuals from Central America. If we are to tackle the root causes of migration from that region, we need to sanction the individuals who contribute to the corruption and human rights abuses that cause so many to leave and come to our southern border. And with that, I want to thank the chairman again for working with me on these very important issues to my district and to the nation, and I yield back.
Thank you. Are there any other members who wish to be recognized? Seeing none, are there any amendments to the bill? Seeing none, I would like to recognize Mr. Cartwright for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move the bill be favorably reported to the full committee.
The question is on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. I ask unanimous consent that the staff be permitted to make technical and conforming changes to the bill and report just approved. Seeing no objections, so ordered. Please leave all copies of your bill and report at the desk. With that, the meeting stands adjourned.